We're going live. Ah, we're live apparently. Aha. Hello there, folks. How are you out in YouTube land? Nice things. Just in getting settled. A bit chaotic here as always. But we'll just get ready to get things going at 10 o'clock and we'll say hello to anybody. In the meantime, if anyone's there, say hello. Just as we get our notes ready, let's see where we're at. Chapter 13 tonight. God Emperor of Dune. Really good chapter ahead, folks. There's that Tronica saying hi. So how are you? I'm okay. We've all got the cold here at the moment. So I'm medicated, I suppose, is the way of putting it. But I'm not too bad. How are you, sir? No. So yeah, there's 10 o'clock. So I will say hello, folks, to everybody out there in YouTube land. I'm Doc Sloan. Welcome to the Science Fiction Station, where tonight we're looking at Chapter 13 of our God Emperor of Dune book club. It's a good chapter tonight, I think, a very interesting one, where we have Leto Atreides meeting his new Duncan Idaho Ghola. Doing well, thanks. Spice flowing here. Pardon me. I've kind of just dashed in here from getting the dog sorted, so I'm a bit out of breath at the moment, which is I need fluids. But otherwise good, so I'll settle in a wee second, you know. But my voice sounds, I don't know, tonight, my voice sounds really deep, kind of underwater, almost, so it's sounding a bit weird anyway to me. But I think it is just this, we've got this nasty little cold. Now, weather's been crazy here the last few days. We got caught in, about 6 different types of weather in one day, a couple of days ago, including thunder, lightning, and outrageous rainstorms, you know. So it's been one of those kind of all over the place weeks, you know. So here we are. Let's see. Tonight I've called this one Homo ex Machina, or when Leto met Duncan again, man out of the machine, if you like. So just to get started, we've got quite a lengthy epigraph here. A pretty interesting chapter, I think, with the obvious sort of back and forth between Leto and Duncan as they get to sort of know each other again for the first time, or for the nth time, if you like, for Leto. So it's definitely an interesting chapter. There's a few things in it that are a bit, I don't know, if you know what I mean. We'll have a wee natter about them whenever we get there. A couple of things that don't quite ring right. And as usual, I think within this chapter, we've noticed, again, we'll notice the God Emperor being quite evasive, I think. Starting to get a bit of a feel on his character here. And maybe that's the idea with all of these stolen journals, etc., you know. So here we go with epigraph number 13. The Duncans always think it odd that I choose women for combat forces, but my fish speakers are a temporary army in every sense. While they can be violent and vicious, women are profoundly different from men in their dedication to battle. I read that wrong again. Sorry, I missed my comma there. So while they can be violent and vicious, women are profoundly different from men in their dedication to battle. The cradle of Genesis ultimately predisposes them to behavior more protective of life. They have proved to be the best keepers of the golden path. I reinforce this in my design for their training. They are set aside for a time from ordinary routines. I give them special sharings which they can look back upon with pleasure for the rest of their lives. They come of age in the company of their sisters in preparation for events more profound. What you share in such companionship always prepares you for greater things. The haze of nostalgia covers their days among their sisters, making those days into something different than they were. That's the way today changes history. All contemporaries do not inhabit the same time. The past is always changing, but few realize it. And that's the stolen journals. Whew. I've got to catch my breath. Excuse me, folks. I sound so funny to myself tonight. I hope I'm sounding okay, folks. I feel like I'm very nasal and very Just can't really sort of tell with my hearing at the minute. It's just all funny. So I hope everything's coming through okay. But it's putting me off rightly, actually, to be honest with you. So I'll hopefully get a grip on things. But if someone can let me know if it's a sound okay. There's a Flaccid House saying, "Hey, evening, Doc. I hope you've been keeping well. Regard these sessions as a small mercy during the work week." And there's the Baked Alaska Joe saying, "Howdy all. How are you doing, folks?" Excellent. Thank you very much. As I was saying, I'm a bit dosed with the flu, dosed and medicated tonight, and my head, my whole head, and sort of hearing it is a bit funny sounding to me. So I'm just trying to get a sense of myself. Really, I sound very funny, and I have a kind of a sort of odd kind of pressure thing with my hearing anyway. So it's kind of just exacerbated it a wee bit. But I think I'm coming through very bassy myself, but I'm hoping it's not too bad, folks. So just a few things about this, I suppose, if we run back through it. I suppose what we have here is Leto talking about the fish speakers, etc. What's the point in having a all-female army in this case? And he's saying they can be as violent and vicious as the men, but they're profoundly different from men in their dedication to battle. So I suppose things within it, we talk about this. Kind of interesting is the coming of age in the company of their sisters. So not so much a band of brothers, more as a sorority of sisters or a fellowship of females, that kind of thing. So I'm just jumping down a wee bit here. I've made some wee notes. What's interesting about this is I think the use of the kind of shared myth, if you like, the haze of nostalgia, changes their view of such things. Just this bit, the haze of nostalgia covers their days among their sisters, making those days into something different than they were. That's the way today changes history. So it's this kind of almost like a, I don't know, it almost creates like a false memory, if you think. And this would be for all of these people, all of these fish speakers. This sort of special bond that they create. With what Frank calls them, is it the mystique in Dune? I think that things like the Sardaukar have. This kind of thing is the same thing here. And this kind of form of sorority, if you like, prepares them, but it gives them a secondary kind of false memory. I don't know how to put it, but it's one that's not the true thing, if you like. It's glazed over, with rose tinted glasses. That's that kind of thing. And I think it's interesting again that we have a wee talk about that's the way today changes history. So in that sense, what we talk about, I suppose, is that the idea of the past being fluid, that kind of thing. The past is always changing. I suppose if we think about it, the past never really changes. It's just what we understand about it kind of grows, I think, in some ways, or it can. I suppose it can go the other way. We can lose information about things, But history very much to me is an inquiry into something. But in that sense, whenever someone would inquire into something about what was it like to be, for example, in the fish speakers back in the reign of Leto II, and that would be, it was amazing, it was great, it was just the best time of my life, this kind of thing, and it might sort of ignore kind of the reality of it. So I've scribbled down here just in relation to that bit about this haze of nostalgia, making those days into something different than that they were. This kind of creates, this is the mystique creation, if you like, but it's also a sort of false memory. And I was wondering, I've kind of written down, I thought it would kind of be like what I would call a Uchronian memory, if you like. A Uchronia as opposed to a utopia is a good time, if you like, a sort of almost a perfect time for them, which I think is quite interesting. And again, this is the stolen journals, but again, this is the Leto's kind of thoughts, his words here. What else have we got within this? Just in terms of the epigraph, just the comment, just violent and vicious, etc. Cradle of Genesis. So, in that sense, the women are, I think, the same as the sense. The idea of the temporary army is interesting as well. It's just until they're not needed anymore, this kind of thing. But they're also mentioned is that their combat force is here as well. But the cradle of Genesis, I suppose, is the ability of the female to give birth in this sense. I think this is what Leto says ultimately predisposes them to behavior more protective of life. So we're getting within the epigraphic kind of discussion of what something that's going to pop up in the conversation ahead in this chapter between Leto and Duncan is that Duncan's going to kind of want to know why an army of female warriors, why that, what's the back and forth between them is going to be it's not going to be that informative, I suppose is the way of putting it for Duncan. But here we've got this little section here about what Leto thinks the Duncans think. Excuse me, about why he chooses only women. And we also get the sense, by the way, within this, that this is very much part of whatever's going on with Leto and his plan for humanity. Women have proved to be the best keepers of the golden path. I reinforce this in my design for their training. So yeah, there's a bit more to all of that, I suppose. We almost pick it apart all over the place, but it's a great wee epigraph leading into this chapter, I think. And I find it kind of it's once we kind of get to the end, it's almost like if you get to the end of this chapter, you should nip back and read the epigraph again. I think it's quite fun. So there we are, folks. Baked Alaska Joe says, off topic, but on topic of healthier nations, public health. Yeah, mine does not have public health so much, and I'm curious as to things like level of service and wait times at clinics. Oh, pardon me. Levels of service, I suppose. I don't know. A&E is generally about 4 hours. I think accident and emergency. But if you're in crisis of life, they'll see to you immediately. So that kind of thing. Level of service at wait times at clinics. Honestly, couldn't comment. To be honest with you. If you're using the pharmacies, they're grand these days. They take a lot of the load from the doctors at the minute. Level of service and wait times at clinics. If you're talking about the hospitals, it really depends on your needs, I think. But you'll get seen to. I'm in Northern Ireland, so our population is quite different than the rest of the UK. And we have X amount of hospitals within certain areas and so on. So you couldn't compare us. We're part of the NHS, but you wouldn't be able to compare us properly, I think, with England, Scotland, and Wales. We're a wee bit different over here, How much does it cost to see a doctor? Nothing. It's National Health Service. It's all free. So nothing. It doesn't cost you anything. You work here. You pay national insurance. It's like a form of tax. You have your tax and your national insurance. National insurance contributes to the NHS, that kind of thing. As do some of your taxes as well. But it's a public health service. It's National Health Service, so anybody who's a British citizen can, if you're in need, go and get to see a doctor and you don't pay for it. It's different for, well, you can see them with your dentistry, but you have to fill in forms and stuff. But generally, it's not. Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, dentists. I think you can get your teeth seen to for free as well. So no, it's not. We have the National Health Service is pretty good when it's working well. It's under strain a lot, I think. But no, it's not to worry. Happy to happy to let you know. If you look up the National Health Service on Wikipedia, you'll find out about it. I suppose but it doesn't cost UK citizens to use it. We it's part of our taxation. So. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, I've been in the hospital there last year. Pardon me, nearly ended up dead, and I got seen to and treated, and thank you very much. Bob's your uncle. I'm okay, and I'm here. And yeah, we've had to use the NHS in emergencies, and they have, been sort of life-saving events and stuff, and they've saved lives. So I can't complain about it. Um, probably the main problem with the NHS is too much middle management, not enough doctors, not enough nurses, that kind of thing. Mm. But there you go, Baked Alaska, Joe. It's the National Health Service. It's free to all citizens of the UK. Mm. Julian says the epigraph is the start of where Frank starts to relate war and sex far more overtly. He seems to see it as a latent directional energy which goes unchecked in male armies. Yeah. Something, just to point this out while I still remember it, I suppose here quickly write it down. It's a good point. This kind of thing that Frank does have a sort of recurring theme about violence in young men in particular. And the character that we see it with in the first novel, Dune, is Jamis. And Jamis is a guy who just can't get his violence off, if you know what I mean, and he ends up being dead for it. This kind of idea, if you like, taken to a much bigger scale, if you like, we're going to kind of get I don't know, sort of Idaho's response to this, if you like. Again, we're getting some of this from the epigraph. What the Idahos always think it odd that I choose women for combat forces. It's the Idahos that think it odd. And again, we're getting this kind of explanation from the God Emperor as to why he thinks it's a good idea. There was something else in here, by the way. Sorry, I made me notes on this page, but they weren't in alphabetical order as I went, so I was jumping about, I suppose, on the epigraph. Apologies for that. But one that I missed there, I think, was all. This is a strange statement. Where were we? I'll just read the bit before. The haze of nostalgia covers their days among their sisters, making those days into something different than they were. That's the way today changes history. It's this bit. All contemporaries do not inhabit the same time. No, they do. It's sort of, if you know what I mean. The whole point, I suppose, I've written down, here's my own opinion. This is either nonsensical, paradoxical, or oxymoronic, because the very definition of a contemporary is someone who inhabits the same time as you. So we're getting some sort of paradox. I don't know. That's the way today changes history, is I suppose how people of each day look back. But all contemporaries do not inhabit the same time. The past is always changing, but few realize it. So ultimately, I'd argue it's the past never changes. That's done. Whatever happened. It's just what we know about it, I suppose, which is history. The inquiry into what we know about what happened in the past. That's the thing that changes, and then our knowledge of what happened in the past changes, I suppose. But I think it is a fixed, immutable thing. What happened in the past? I don't know. But yeah, I don't know what you think of these statements. This particular one, this all contemporaries do not inhabit the same time. And I wonder, is it specific? Is that a reference to the sisterhood that I suppose is the fish speakers here? Is it a thing that they have a common euchronia, that they all, regardless of what generation they are, if you like, that they do certain events, rites, and rituals, and that they all look back to a common kind of series of things, training that the God Emperor has reinforced, so that it doesn't matter what generation of fish speaker you are, you all have a shared memory of being there at that time, at a certain age, this kind of thing. I think it's quite clever. And this is part of Leto II's design. Goodness gracious me. So sorry, we're not even out of the epigraph, but it's well worth examining, that one. I think. There's all sorts there. Thank goodness I've got my breath and I'm sounding a bit better, folks. I think the medicine's kicking in a bit. That's better. Yeah. Sorry, I was having real trouble hearing myself earlier, just with having a bit of a cold and being a bit dosed. My hearing being a bit funny, but things seem to have cleared up. I hope I'm coming through okay, folks. Right. Goodness gracious me, that's much better. Get some more fluids. Big Alaska Joe says, wow. Bill Davis 292 says, hi guys, not really at keyboard, just listening while I work. How you doing, Bill? Thanks for joining us. Hope I'm sounding okay. Carlos Costellis is saying, hey Doc and everyone. Hi Carlos, how you doing? Big Alaska Joe saying, hi Carlos and Bill. Julian is saying, okay, the violence of younger men, at least according to Frank, is harnessed and directed by older men, the breeding males. The homosexual aspect of this conversation is later Achilles Agamemnon. Okay. Hang on, it's not in this chapter though, is it? Because if it is, I've missed it. I don't remember that. Yeah, I think you mean later on in the book. Achilles and Agamemnon. Yeah. I was trying to actually think of something else, but you're going for the Achilles is 17, isn't he? Is he 15? Hang on. I'm trying to figure out how old Achilles is at the start of the Trojan War. But I think he's either 15 or 17, I think. He's 15 when he takes command of the fleet at Aulis, isn't he? Bill Davis, Bill Davis says, I like shared ideas. Excellent, Bill. You're in the right place. We've got some heavy ones tonight, I think, some interesting ones. Julian said, male armies seem to direct their energy at Tugi and the qualities of foreign gene pools. Women's armies seem to incorporate new genes directly. Thus, Leto continues breeding. I don't know if this is accurate. Right. That's later on. Yes. Heidi, Babs saying, howdy all, evening, Doc. How you doing, Babs? Hi. Good to see you. And Carlos is saying, hey, Babs. Hello, folks. Yeah, excellent to have you all here. I was saying, excuse me, anybody joined me at the start there. I was a bit out of puff getting in here. But with the whole cough medicine and meds. But I'm feeling much better. I've got started. I've got some fluids in me, but my hearing seems to have eased a bit. It threw me off quite a bit there, actually, just trying to read and stuff, because it sounded so funny. Right, so anyway, here we are, folks. Excellent epigraph, and a great chapter ahead, so let's get cracking. It's quite a lengthy one. Pardon me. Well, in terms of, we've got a lot of dialogue in it, so I don't know, usually when we get dialogue, things tend to run a bit nice and quickly. But we've got all sorts of little stopping points, I think. And if anybody's got any questions or little comments about this chapter, fire away. It'd be good to hear them. Right, let's see. Where are we to start with? Okay. Chapter there. There we go. After sending word to the fish speakers, Leto descended to the crypt in the late evening. He had found it best to begin the first interview with a new Duncan Idaho in a darkened room where the Ghola could hear Leto describe himself before actually seeing the pre-worm body. Pardon me. So I just want to look back at that a wee second. Where are we? Yeah, that's an offensive. I find that that's an offensive sentence. That is. I thought that was me. It's possibly Frank. Actually, that sentence is in dire need of a comma, because I lost it there. We're going up for air. I just for a moment I thought I'll quickly have a look, and I don't see one at all. So I'm going to invent one as I read through it. But if maybe somebody could check there, if anybody's got a Berkeley or another copy, just to see if that sentence is missing a comma, because I had bother there with the amount of air I needed. Let's see. Okay, he had found it best to begin the first interview with a new Duncan Idaho in a darkened room where the Ghola could hear Leto describe himself before actually seeing the pre-worm body. That was better. I I know that sentence needs lots of commas. There was a small side room carved in black stone off the central rotunda of the crypt, which suited their requirement. Their chamber was large enough to accommodate Leto on his cart, but the ceiling was low. Illumination came from hidden glow globes, which he controlled. There was only the one door, but it was in two segments, one swinging wide to admit the royal cart, the other a small portal in human dimensions. Leto rolled his royal cart into the chamber, sealed the large portal, and opened the smaller one. He composed himself then for the ordeal. Sorry, pardon me. I think this chapter is pretty funny in places, actually. And I suppose before we get cracking with it, but we have this idea of ever kind of repeating themes and cyclical themes, and I suppose reiterations of the same things within the Dune series, the plans within plans within plans, all of this kind of thing, plots within plots within plots, narratives within narratives within narratives. It really does apply to the story in general. What I think we're seeing another version of here, very much so, not quite the same thing, but this would remind me of the conversation between way back at the start of June. This would remind me of the conversation between the Baron and Piter when we sort of first get to see them. It's just a similar vibe, not quite the same thing. They're obviously very different personalities here, but it's almost a kind of, another sort of odd couple kind of moment, if you like. And as much as I don't know, you might look at Leto and Mineo as a bit of an odd couple. Leto and Duncan, I suppose, are an odd couple as well. Carlos is saying, Julie and I have heard a theory that war is hardwired into us as a way to mix our genes. It would explain a lot. Yeah. I suppose that kind of thing. It's interesting. I think war, I don't know. War's a thing of, I think it's, well, I wouldn't say it's a thing sort of human creation alone, but it's certainly it's an art and craft, isn't it? In many ways. Yeah, I don't know. I think it takes certain types of personalities, to be honest with you, and a level of power. It's just absolutely not necessary at all. My personal opinion, but it's power, and they're human abstracts, if you like, the things that people go after. All for metal, what a bore. To quote a certain pop song, if anybody knows it, it's come up with CV, make me smile, that one. If you have a look at the lyrics. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's all for the money. That's pretty much what war's for, I think. Or whatever it equates to money, It's very, very interesting, I suppose, with melange. Of course, as Frank has told us himself, is a direct analog for oil and potable water, isn't it? We mentioned the hydraulic despotism and stuff. The whole sort of economic chaos that's being caused out of war in the Middle East is rippling. Pardon me, and it's all because of the oil. And we're feeling the effects of it here. I imagine most of you are too, But it's very interesting that we're looking at these books when we're seeing examples of that going on in the real world, And here we have someone who's got a almost complete stranglehold on the substance, and has shut the universe down pretty much in terms of how people get about. We have it from his own good self a few chapters back from the God Emperor. Pardon me. Let's see, where did we get to? Sorry, folks. Oh yes, the door, didn't we? Leto rolled his. Right. Yes, indeed. There we are. Leto rolled his royal cart into the chamber, sealed the large portal, and opened the smaller one. He composed himself then for the ordeal. Boredom was an increasing problem. The pattern of the Ch13 Gholas had become boringly repetitious. Once Leto had sent word warning the Ch13 to send no more Duncans, but they had known they could disobey him in this thing. And we get Leto's thoughts here. Sometimes I think they do it just to keep disobedience alive. The Ch13 relied on an important thing which they knew protected them in other matters. The presence of a Duncan pleases the Paul Atreides in me. As Leto had explained it to Mineo in the Major Domo's first days at the Citadel. So we have a quick jump into the past here. The Duncans must come to me with much more than Ch13 preparation. You must see to it that my Horus gentle the Duncans and that the women answer some of his questions. I've made a wee note here, not all. Which questions may they answer, Lord? That's Mineo. Which questions may they answer, Lord? They know. Mineo had, of course, learned all about this procedure over the years. And we come back to the present there. I've got a couple of questions in this chapter, I suppose, kind of interesting ones. But the first question I kind of asked at this point, the Ch13 can disobey him in this. Because he once asked no more Duncans. They obey it because they know they can get away with this because he loves the Duncan. That satisfies as he says, the presence of a Duncan pleases the Paul Atreides in me. So the question I wanted to know just before we move on is, why hasn't Leto taken over the Ch13 Axolotl tank program, etc.? Why hasn't he just seized it all, brought it to Arrakis, and make his own Duncans when he wants them? Why? I'm just kind of curious as to why he hasn't done that. And the answer, I suppose, I kind of know, but I wanted to ask the question anyway. And I suppose the answer that doesn't give anything away is that it must be part of the Golden Path. Otherwise, if he loved the Duncans so much and that they appeased the father that he has a Paul Atreides inside him, surely he would just prefer to have them on hand, Why put his trust in someone else to do that? So that's what popped into my head at that point. Let's see. So we return to the present here. And I suppose this little thing that we're kind of party to, we'll kind of figure this out. So that it's an interesting kind of chapter in terms of how we go into it, what we already know, what we don't know, what we're going to learn, and what poor Duncan, I suppose, doesn't learn. In that sense, it's a very odd little chapter. In that sense, I really like it. Let's see. So Leto heard Mineo's voice outside the darkened room, then the sound of the fish speaker escort and the hesitantly distinctive footsteps of the new Ghola. So this is Mineo talking. Through that door, Mineo said. It will be dark inside, and we will close the door behind you. Stop just inside and wait for the Lord Leto to speak. Why will it be dark? The Duncan's voice was full of aggressive misgivings. He will explain. Idaho was thrust into the room, and the door was sealed behind him. I like that. Leto knew what the Ghola saw. Only shadows among shadows and blackness where not even the source of a voice could be fixed. As usual, Leto brought the Paul Muad'Dib voice into play. Pardon me. It's kind of funny. It's almost like a cliche from a film, isn't it? The heroes shoves through a door, it's closed behind him, and there's some monster in the room, and it's It's very much like that, but not at all. So this is Leto using his father's voice, Paul Muad'Dib's voice. It pleases me to see you again, Duncan. I can't see you. Idaho was a warrior and the warrior attacks. This reassured Leto that the Ghola was a fully restored original. The morality play by which the Taraxu reawakened the Ghola's pre-death memories always left some uncertainties in the Ghola's minds. Some of the Duncans believed they had threatened a real Paul Muad'Dib. This one carried such illusions. I hear Paul's voice, but I can't see him, Idaho said. He didn't try to conceal the frustrations. Let them all come out in his voice. We get Duncan's thoughts here. Why was an Atreides playing this stupid game? Paul was truly dead and some long ago, and this was Leto, the carrier of Paul's resurrected memories, and the memories of many others if the Taraxu stories were to be believed. So this is Leto again in the voice of Paul. You have been told that you are only the latest in a long line of duplicates, Leto said. I have none of those memories. Leto recognized hysteria in the Duncan, barely covered by the warrior bravado. Excuse me. Pardon me, folks. I've got a nasty wee cold at the minute. Oh, I have to grab some more honey soon. Let's see. Oh, yes. Interesting. I have none of those memories. Says Duncan. I want to point something out to you later on, actually. At a certain point, another sort of question that I have. Pardon me. Goodness, I have a fair bit of reading to do tonight. Just hoping my old throat stays together, keeps it together. Leto recognized hysteria in the Duncan, barely covered by the warrior bravado. The cursed Taraxu post-tank restoration tactics had produced the usual mental chaos. This Duncan had arrived in a state of near shock, strongly suspecting he was insane. Leto knew that the most subtle powers of reassurance would be required now to soothe the poor fellow. This would be emotionally draining for both of them. Just the sense of the God Emperor, I suppose, as he's going into this, this could be boring, boringly repetitious for him. And and possibly emotionally draining. It's kind of funny, his responses, I think, to this. And they are someone who's done this so many times. So again, Leto with Paul's voice speaking here. There have been many changes, Duncan, Leto said. One thing that does not change. I am still Atreides. They said your body is... Pardon me. Yes, that has changed. The damn Taraxu. They tried to make me kill someone. Well, he looked like you. I suddenly remembered who I was, and there was this. Could that have been a Muad'Dib Ghola? A face dancer mimic, I assure you. I've written, just before we move on, I've just, the Idaho's, this Duncan Idaho's question there is a pertinent one, isn't it? It's not, could that have been a Muad'Dib face dancer? It's a Muad'Dib Ghola, like himself, recreated from Paul's cells. A face dancer mimic, I assure you, is what Leto, as with the voice of Paul, replies. He looked and talked so much like, are you sure? An actor, no more. Did he survive? Of course. That's how they awakened my memories. They explained the whole damn thing. Is it true? It's true, Duncan. I detest it, but I permit it for the pleasure of your company. Pardon me. We'll jump. Yeah, I'll read the next bit, I think, and then we'll jump back into this bit. Excuse me, my voice is a bit funny tonight, folks. He says with with his funny hearing too. Bear with me a wee second. Let's see. The potential victims. This is Leto's thoughts now. The potential victims always survive, Leto thought. At least for the Duncans I see. There have been slips, the fake Paul slain and the Duncans wasted, but there are always more cells carefully preserved from the original. There. So I just wanted to jump back into this briefly and just from Leto, an actor no more. Did he survive? Translate says, did you kill him? He did survive, of course, so he didn't kill him. That's how, and he says that's how the process goes. Is it true what he asks him? In other words, is the whole thing that they told me true? Leto says it's true. I detest it, but I permit it for the pleasure of your company. So yes, this test is how they waken your memories, etc. All of it, what that it's all true. Now the next bit is the potential victims, which are all Paul Muad'Dib face dancers, always survive. Leto thought, at least for the Duncans I see. There have been slip-ups, the fake Paul slain. And then if that happens, the Duncans are wasted. In other words, they're killed too. Pardon me. The language here is quite interesting, isn't it? There have been slips, the fake Paul slain and the Duncan wasted, but there are always more cells carefully preserved from the original. So in the tradition of the little skulls that we put when anybody gets killed, we have many Paul face dancers who've got their own little skull, folks. There we go. And over here we've got many Duncan Gholas wasted, killed by the Ch13. And the face dancers would have been killed by Duncan Idaho. So that's not quite the way it's. Oh dear, there are mistakes. Sometimes the Pauls get killed, which case the Duncans are killed. And make another one, So it doesn't always work out, and I suppose it makes us wonder how many more, how many of the Duncans have been killed this way. It's a sort of question almost that if Duncan was aware of it, he'd want to know how many of the Duncans have died this way. How many times have we killed Paul Atreides? I have a feeling Duncan would want to know. Just based on his character. Let's see. Julian saying water control is a major concern on the American West Coast. It doesn't surprise me that Frank is concerned with it. Is it a big problem? America's West Coast. Are you talking California? I suppose. Yeah, I suppose your weather's pretty hot down there. But oh yeah, I think I saw something about that, wasn't it? That water control, was it something to do with whenever the big fires were on in Hollywood? Wasn't there water kind of locked away in reservoirs or something like that should have been down that way? I think, wasn't it the firefighters couldn't get water or something? Yeah, that's bizarre. We've no lack of it at all in this country. It's just there every day, every day falling from the heavens. As if the main Ireland is probably the exact opposite of a desert. It rains here all the time. That's our dominant kind of weather. It's just all sorts of rain. I see Chaya's popped in on down there. Shalom, Chaya, how you doing? Shalom, all says Chaya. Nice to see you. I'm just running through some of these comments here, Chaya. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're resting up. Hope your foot's on the mend. But yeah, a bit concerned. Yeah, I suppose it depends on where you're at, really, doesn't it? But yeah, I think that we don't pay for our water here. I think that would have the Irish up in arms, quite frankly, very quickly. It's just ridiculous. Let me see. Carlos is saying a few years ago in Texas, we had to go to court to stop a corporation that wanted to start a water bottling company that have drained the local aquifer and turned the area into a desert. Oh. Yeah, that's nuts. It's to destroy an ecosystem, whether big or large, for a product, for a quick buck, is absurd. Tell them to go, go somewhere, somewhere they can get it in the sea or something. I don't know, desalinate it. But yeah, that's ridiculous. was actually just reading a wee bit about the Vanishing Lake. They're on Wikipedia because we were up past it there over the sort of Easter weekend there. Myself and my wife, we'd driven up past it. We'd had a good wee kind of drive around the North Glens there. I ended up in Cushendall and stuff. But there's a couple of wee nice things I wanted to stop and photograph it. I couldn't remember its proper name for the life of me, but it's kind of interesting. Let's see. Vanishing Lake, Northern Loch Arima, you call it. That's it. The Vanishing Lake. Let's see. I'll just get the right spelling for you. If anybody wants to check it out, I'm sure it's on Wikipedia or something. There you go. Loch Arima. That's Northern Ireland's Vanishing Lake is its other name. That's an interesting place. Nothing magical about it, but it's a lovely area, you know. And meant to stop and just sort of get nice wee spot for a picnic, but get some photos, you know, if it's there. Oh dear. Oh, here, I jumped forward a wee bit, didn't I? Sorry, let me just back up a bit. Jim saying Leto never gets anything new. It's only in that way I feel sorry for him. I don't know. He's got the latest tech, hasn't he, Julian? But yeah, I suppose in terms of his, he would have new things. I think if he doesn't look too much into the future as the day by day goes by. He restricts his ability to look into the, you know, to use the prescience too much. And I don't know. He seems to have a new argument with the multitude every day. I think there are things that are new for him, in some ways, but maybe he's maybe argued it all. I don't see how he would get too bored with arguing with a multitude. You know. But I think there are some new things. It's interesting. You actually say that, Joe, again, just with the comparison of the God Emperor and Old Harry and Old Harry's game. They're incredibly similar. Only this kind of subject happens with God. When he's visiting hell, the whole was it? He's not so omni in his omniscience anymore, and he's realizing it's kind of there's nothing new for him. It's almost the same thing, but it's very comical. I must get a wee thing put together on Old Harry's game for you. Actually, I'll be able to tell you what episodes and stuff these things are, if anybody's interested. But if anybody almost wants the radio equivalent of God Emperor of Dune, kind of British comedy, and it's set in hell. It's Old Harry's game. There's 7 years of it. Fantastically funny. Probably the best comedy show I think that's been produced on radio in a long time. And it's kind of done, but it's very, very good. And our Old Harry's the devil, basically Satan. And he has a particularly sort of obsequious sort of for want of a better word, assistant Major Domo called Scumspawn. And there's a lot of similarities to sort of things that the God Emperor is dealing with, this kind of thing, nothing new, all sorts. And there's almost a kind of golden path plan as well, because things kind of start to go wrong for him, and it's the general thing is that hell is becoming overpopulated, and so Satan actually starts trying to get people to do good things to slow them down from getting to hell, if you see what I mean. Whereas up to a certain point within the radio show, it's the exact opposite. He's out doing satanic things to get people into hell, or certain people who it's only a matter of time. But there's a lot of similarities. Check it out. I think it's on YouTube, folks. Old Harry's game. Old Harry's game. Oh goodness, what's his name? Sorry, Andy Hamilton. That's it. I didn't have to go near the keyboard. It's written by Andy Hamilton. He is Satan as well. He plays the role of Satan. It's very, very good. It's a good, yeah. If you like, it's all. It's, as I said, it's almost a bit like God Emperor of Dune in many ways, but it's a comedy. It's a kind of back and forth between the devil and a professor and so on, and the most evil man who's ever lived, kind of thing. But it's well worth checking out if you like God Emperor of Dune. I think you might enjoy it, especially if you like a good comedy. It's not that old either. Let's see. Just to sort of catch up with the comments here. There we go. Carlos saying, Julian, I've heard that it's illegal in California and Oregon to collect rainwater for personal use. Provides being that the government owns the rain. Is that true? What? Julian says, I believe so. It might be dependent on county. I'm not from California. Chai says, Shalom all. Julian says, Dia Shaya. Bill Davis says, yes, we are running out of water here in the USA Southwest. Several states are competing to get the water out of the Colorado River. You know, wow. You should buy some Irish water. Buy some Irish rain. Jesus, there's a business. That would be interesting. Goodness gracious me, that's nuts. The government doesn't own the rain, and it shouldn't own the rain, and that's just silly. You can tell them I said so. Silly. Rain is free water, isn't it? At the end of the day. That's very Orwellian, to be honest, very dystopian, just in general. Never mind Orwellian. That's nuts. That's bonkers. if somebody passed that law in Ireland, just know they would have to leave the country quickly. I don't think they live a week. It's a symbol. It's nuts. It's the way a lot of people, some houses in Ireland, people who live off the beaten track, especially, it depends on where you're at. Not so much Northern Ireland, but places like Donegal, the people aren't connected up to the water mains, this kind of thing. So they have their own wells and stuff like that. So it's still a big part of life, I suppose. In some parts of Ireland, having your own well and collecting rainwater, and this kind of thing. That's bonkers. So it's illegal to collect rainwater for personal use. The premise being that the government owns the rain. Is that true? I believe so. Wow, that's bonkers. Bill Davis says, you're running out of water here in the US Southwest. Several states are competing to get the water out of the Colorado River. And Julian's saying the major instance of despotic water control in California is the draining of the San Joaquin, am I pronouncing that right, Valley for cotton companies. Pardon me. Chai. Excellent. Hope you're well, Chai. There you go. And that's me saying about Loch Arima, which is the vanishing lake in Northern Ireland. Don't know why I was thinking about that. Yeah. Okay. Where do we get to? So yeah, our little skulls for the fake Paul face dancers and the Duncans who killed them too. So let's see. Bear with me. I'll tell you what, folks, you have to give me a wee second. I've absolutely run out of fluids and I need some, so I'll just go refill my glass and I'll be right back and we'll get on with this. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. Managed to grab myself a multivitamin while I was yes, indeed. Right. Fluids. So bear with me a wee bit tonight, folks. I'm just a wee bit of a cold. I was a wee bit off with my hearing earlier. But everything's good, but I'm still a bit, pardon me, coffee, if you know what I mean. Yeah, that's, I'm sorry, guys, just before we get going, but I'm quite surprised at that. Bill and Julian, that little discussion, and Carlos that you're having there about rainwater, being, that's just a bit strange. I would think if you're in an instance of perhaps having a drought or something like that in a hot desert area, I would think all the water you can get, would encourage people to collect their own water. To be honest with you, it would alleviate things, wouldn't it? But yeah, we've a big what do you call it? Well, it's like a big plastic bin with the the lid flipped upside down in the hole on it, and it collects rainwater. It's out in the garden there. Just thought about it. So I don't know how much that holds, but it's full at the minute, and we tap on it, and we would just use it for the garden when it's particularly hot. If it's not raining. But yeah, that's sitting there in my yard, and it's always full basically, but it's spare water for the I don't know how much it would hold. A fair bit, I'd say. It's the size of a big trash can, if you like. But yay high off the ground, and about that round, that's just for rainwater. But yeah, that's bizarre. Carlos said, I'm just waiting till the government start taxing us for the air we breathe, honestly. Cistern question mark. What's that about? Sorry, Bill. Not too sure. Oh. Oh, is that what my water bin is called? Sorry. Thank you very much, Bill. Got you. Oh, cistern. Thanks for holding rainwater. Yeah, it is actually. It's someone who's repurposed bins, and so it's originally a big plastic bin. It's one of those kind of redesign things, a mimetic. Was it a meme engine, if you like? But yes, indeed, it is a cistern, as you said. Thanks for holding rainwater. Thank you very much. I'm not very good with those technical terms. You think I would be by now, having read Dune. Thank you. Right, let's see. Where were we? Oh yes, the Duncans and the fetus dancers being so more of them killed than we kind of know about. What about your body? Idaho demanded. Muad'Dib could be retired now. Leto resumed his usual voice. So this is Leto stopping talking as his father, Paul Muad'Dib, and just going into his own voice now. Excuse me. All right. So this is Leto. I have accepted the sand trout as my skin. They have been changing me ever since. Why? I will explain that in due course. So not an answer. Something we're going to point out here. This is Duncan. The Talaxu said you look like a sandworm. What did my fish speakers say? They said, you're God. Why do you call them fish speakers? An old conceit. The first priestesses spoke to fish in their dreams. They learned valuable things that way. How do you know? I am those women and everything that came before and after them. Leto heard the dry swallowing in Idaho's throat. Then, I see why the darkness. You're giving me time to adjust. You always were quick, Duncan. Except when you were slow. That's Leto's thoughts there. Quick yet slow, paradoxical. And the memories of the Duncans, I suppose. You were always quick, Duncan, except when you were slow. This is Duncan speaking now. How long have you been changing? More than 3,500 years. Then what the Talaxu told me was true. They seldom dare to lie anymore. That's a long time. Very long. The Tillexi have copied me many times. Many. It's time you asked how many, Duncan. How many of me? So we're getting the predictability, if you like. Pardon me, that we were kind of warned about, if you like, from Leto, that this is going to be boringly repetitious. It's this little bit here happens a couple of times, I think, doesn't it? It's time you asked how many, Duncan. How many? Right on cue, as if he's going through. He's acting his role in a play, if you like, that he's performed many times. How many me? How many of me? This is that the Duncans is predictable in their behaviour, which is interesting. I will let you see the records for yourself. So again, not an answer. And we get Leto's thoughts here. And so it starts, Leto thought. This exchange always appeared to satisfy the Duncans, but there was no escaping the nature of the question, how many of me? The Duncans made no distinctions of the flesh, even though no mutual memories passed between Gholas of the same stock. I've written here this changes later, but is this a goal? The Duncans made no distinctions of the flesh, even though no mutual memories passed between Gholas of the same stock. Interesting. It's an interesting comment to make. So I was just thinking about there that there are no mutual memories passed between Gholas of the same stock. I've got a few questions to ask about this, I suppose. Pardon me. But we'll keep it for a little bit later. Let me just see. Hang on. Where is it? Is it too far away? It's just in relation to the. Actually, it's looking like have I written this down at all? Bear with me. Oh, it's way at the back. How many on me? Sorry, folks. What was I was just trying to collect my thoughts on it. There's no right. I'll just talk about it now. Actually, I think very quickly. There's no mutual memory passed between Duncan to Duncan as Gholas. No kind of other memory there, personal other memory. It's an interesting sort of point just to actually make here. But I suppose I better write this down here. The thing that I wanted to point out, it's a question. I've written it at the back here. Near the end, actually, a couple of pages before the end, in big sort of. So I realized something here, that there are no Duncan Idahos in, as far as I can tell, there are no Duncan Idahos in Leto II's other memory. None, not even, not hate, not Leto, not first Duncan, not any of the others after there. And what we actually have is the Leto's own memories of these men, if you like. But each time, who's in Leto's other memory, he tells you that everybody's there. I don't think that's true, and I think this is something to do with it. What we're reading here, it's an odd statement to make just at this point, I think, but it's there, and it's a little thing, and Frank tends to run with the little things. And just I suppose I'm kind of chatting about it now because for those of us who've read further on down the line, this little statement would seem to have quite a bit of importance, wouldn't it? I don't want to give anything away too much, but there's something quite important there for the later story, as far as I can tell. Pardon me. Excuse me, folks. Apologies for the cough, folks. Got a wee bit of a cold tonight. So I'll let you. Where do we get to? It's time you asked how many, Duncan. How many of me? I will let you see the records for yourself. Not an answer. And so it starts. Leto thought the exchange always appeared to satisfy the Duncans, but there was no escaping the nature of the question: how many of me? The Duncans made no distinctions of the flesh, even though no mutual memories passed between Gholas of the same stock. I remember my death, Idaho said. Harkonnen blades, lots of them, trying to get at you and Jessica. Leto restored the Muad'Dib voice for momentary play. I was there, Duncan. I'm a replacement, is that right? Idaho asked. That's right. How did the other me, how did he die? All flesh wears out, Duncan. It's in the records. Now, just jump back a wee bit here. I remember my death, Idaho said. Harkonnen blades, lots of them trying to get at you and Jessica. Just to sort of say there, I don't know if it's misleading or not. It's Duncan's not killed by the Harkonnen, but it does say Harkonnen blades there. He's killed by the Sardaukar, who are dressed in Harkonnen uniforms. So in terms of a memory that that we talked about from the epigraph, for example, there, about the shared nostalgia, the mistake, the experience that all of these sisterhoods of this sorority of sisters, if you like, of the fish speakers, that it possibly creates a universal kind of Uchronic or Uchronian good memory of a good time that they, it's almost like the idea of Camelot, isn't it? This one fine moment, this moment of perfection, if you like. So it's interesting. So we have that with the fish speakers, this kind of memory. We have the Duncan here remembering his death with the Harkonnen blades, lots of them trying to get at you and Jessica. So does he think he was killed by the Harkonnen? I was wondering, because that's not what happened. He was killed by the Sardaukar dressed in Harkonnen. That's Dune Book 2, Chapter 3, if you like, or Chapter 25, if you go by the way I sort of count the chapters in the books. That's where that is. And of course, Leto wasn't there. Paul was, but of course, Paul and Jessica, Paul, them are both within Leto. So I'm a replacement, is that right? That's right. How did the other me? How did he die? All flesh wears out, Duncan. It is in the records. I've written next to that, they're falsified. And what we've got here is consistently sophistry, lies, deception, not the truth, evasive, whatever you like. Duncan's not really getting any answers as such. In fact, we've kind of probably learned more in the epigraph than what he's going to find out here, which I think is interesting. Leto waited patiently. I'll read that again. Leto waited patiently, wondering how long it would be until the tamed history failed to satisfy this Duncan. Until the tamed history. So these are it's in the reports, the records, etc. This is the tamed history that Leto's thinking of here. In other words, it's been falsified, edited, manipulated, and once again we can see the God Emperor's control of history, records, reports, and even the oral history, it seems, as well. He's controlling all the narratives, not just the overall story that's the golden path, I think. What do you really look like? Idaho asked. What's this sandworm body the Twi'leks described? It will make sandworms of sorts someday. It's already far down the road of metamorphosis. What do you mean of sorts? It will have more ganglia. It will be aware. Okay, I wanted to kind of understand what that meant. So I looked it up. And we'll run through it quickly, folks. Here's the science, if you like. Ganglions, plural ganglia, are groups of, I've taken this from Wikipedia, by the way, are groups of neuron cell bodies in the peripheral nervous system. They are primarily made up of somata or soma, or the cell body as it's also known, as the bulbous non-processed portion of a neuron or glial cell that contains the cell nucleus and dendritic structures, which are branched cytoplasmic process extending, which is a branched, I'll read that again, branched cytoplasmic process extending from a nerve cell. It propagates electrochemical stimulation received from other neural cells to the cell body, or soma, as we just called it there, of the neuron from which the dendrites project. So you've got cell bodies or somas, etc., and then you have these little tree-like things, if you like, little dendrites that go from them. And that's what they are. They're groups of neuron cell bodies in the peripheral nervous system. They're made up of this cell body and the dendritic structure that comes out of them. There we go. Propagates electrochemical stimulation received from other neural cells to the cell body of the neuron from which the dendrites project. So dendron is the Greek word for tree. Ganglion is a word in Greek that means tumors that are on or near the sinews or your tendons. Looking this up, it says apparently that Galen compared these to complex nerve centers in terms of how they look. So there's a wee thing on Greek medicine, ancient medicine, if you like. There are three major groups of ganglia in vertebrates. The first are the dorsal root ganglia, which contain cell bodies of sensory neurons. The second are cranial nerve ganglia, which are certain cell bodies, which contain cell bodies of cranial nerve neurons. And then we have autonomic ganglia, which contains cell bodies of autonomic nerves. So a neuron is a cell that is excitable. It fires electrical signals called action potentials across a neural network in the nervous system. And I've written see wiki in all of these, and you'll be in for a great education. It's very interesting. So ganglia that he's talking about are these cell bodies within different parts, if you like, of the nervous system, the peripheral nervous system. And they're excitable and facilitate, I suppose, electrochemical stimulation as it moves about. So this is the idea that our worms that are going to come from Leto's ultimate metamorphosis are a bit more aware, and he's used this aware here because of this. I just kind of wondered what he means. More ganglia equals more awareness, I think, as far as Frank's concerned here. More processing power for the brains, etc. So I suppose what does it? It'll be aware. I was kind of wondering why. I certainly thought that worms had some kind of awareness. At least in terms of a sense of touch and sense of vibration, that kind of thing. So what does that mean? Are they going to be sentient, sapient? What kind of awareness is kind of what I wanted to know just after running through all of that stuff. So there you go, folks. Just quickly for anybody who I didn't know myself wanted to have a look at ganglia. Because they're familiar with the word and they went, what is a ganglia? What are ganglia? I better have a look at this. So there we go. This is with the change in the types of worms that are on Arrakis. Ultimately, one of the differences. So he still hasn't seen it here. Just to carry on from my wee notes there, folks. Sorry about that. I just like to know these things and always think it's good to share. Duncan says, can't we have some light? I'd like to see you. Leto commanded the floodlights. Brilliant illumination filled the room. The black walls had been arranged to focus the illumination on Leto. Every visible detail revealed. Idaho swept his gaze along the faceted silvery grey body, noted the beginnings of a sandworm's ribbed sections, the sinuous flexings, the small protuberances, which had once been feet and legs, one of them somewhat shorter than the other. He brought his attention back to the well-defined arms and hands, and finally lifted his attention to the cowled face with its pink skin, almost lost in the immensity, a ridiculous extrusion on such a body. I quite like that as a sort of Fate Lux moment to have. Okay, Verbus. It's almost a monster reveal, isn't it? It feels quite theatrical as well. It's the room has been. It's almost as if the room has a stage door, and if you see what I mean, and another door, almost like a trap. The double door here for the two entrances, and it's a reveal. Um, and it could be a bit more. I suppose all the light. It could be a bit more impressive. We could have had a fanfare and a, possibly some epic thing. But it's not that kind of meeting, is it? It's about it's a first meeting between these two. But Leto feels he's got a lot of soothing to do to sort out this Duncan's mental state, if you see what I mean. So this has been practiced and done so many times that this is meant to be the least shocking ta-da moment for the Duncans. Though, yeah, it's kind of interesting. It is almost like a little show, isn't it? Well, Duncan, Leto said, you were warned. Idaho gestured mutely toward the pre-worm body. Leto asked it for him. Why? Idaho nodded. I'm still Atreides, Duncan, and I assure you, with all the honor of that name, there were compelling reasons. What could possibly? You will learn in time. It's not an answer. Idaho merely shook his head from side to side. And Leto says, it's not a pleasant revelation, Leto said. It requires that you learn other things first. Trust the word of an Atreides. So I've written next to I think that trust is misplaced. Not necessarily, well, maybe the word, I don't know. Yeah, no, the word of the Atreides has been not good consistently throughout the Dune series. We found instances where they just went to hell with that. I get what I want, and never mind my word. Paul does it a couple of times at the end of Dune. He does it with Gurney Halleck, I think. Over the centuries, Leto had found that this invocation of Idaho's profound loyalty. Sorry, hang on, I thought I missed a wee bit there. Shook his head. No, it's not a pleasant revelation, Leto said. It requires that you learn other things first. Trust the word of an Atreides. I did read that. Sorry about that. I'll just go on, folks. Over the centuries, Leto had found that this invocation of Idaho's profound loyalties to all things Atreides dampened the immediate wellspring of personal questions. Once more, the formula worked. So I'm to serve the Atreides again, Idaho said. That sounds familiar. Is it? In many ways, old friend. Old to you, maybe, but not to me. How will I serve? Didn't my fish speakers tell you? They said I would command your elite guard, a force chosen from among them. I don't understand that. An army of women? I need a trusted companion who can command my guard. You object? Why women? There are behavioral differences between I'll read that again. There are behavioral differences between the sexes which makes women extremely valuable in this role. Not an answer. You're not answering my question, as Duncan points out. I'm glad that he's picked up on it as a character. I've been writing this down for a wee bit, so I'll be writing my notes as I go. You think them inadequate? Still not an answer. Some of them looked pretty tough, but others were soft with you. Still not an answer. He's diverted him, hasn't he? Leto found this a charming reaction. Oh, sorry, I missed a bit there. Others were soft with you. And we have Idaho blushed, which is an interesting thing we're going to learn about here. Leto found this a charming reaction. The Duncans were among the few humans of these times who could do this. It was understandable, a product of the Duncans' early training, their sense of personal honor, very chivalrous. So I suppose what we learn there is that blushing, the blushing response seems to have been bred out of humans. Pardon me. Or we could interpret it a different way, is that nobody has any personal honor anymore. Nobody has that kind of sense of, I don't know, sense of shame, if you like, sense of, personal honor, being chivalrous, if you like, that kind of thing. Embarrassment. I don't see why you trust women to protect you, Idaho said. The blood slowly receded from his cheeks. He glared at Leto. But I have always trusted them as I trust you with my life. What do we protect you from? Moneo and my fish speakers will bring you up to date. Again, not an answer. Idaho shifted from one foot to the other, his body swaying in a heartbeat rhythm. He stared around the small room, his eyes not focusing. With the abruptness of sudden decision, he returned his attention to Leto. What do I call you? It was the sign of acceptance for which Leto had been waiting. Will Lord Leto do? Yes, my lord. Idaho stared directly into Leto's Fremen blue eyes. Is it true what your fish speakers say? You have memories of... We're all here, Duncan. Leto spoke it in the voice of his paternal grandfather. Then, even the women are here, Duncan. It was the voice of Jessica, Leto's paternal grandmother. So we have Leto the First there, in other words, Paul's father, and Jessica as well, which is an interesting one. You knew them well, Leto said, and they know you. Idaho inhaled a slow, trembling breath. That will take a little getting used to. My own initial reaction exactly, Leto said. An explosion of laughter shook Idaho, and Leto thought it more than the weak jest deserved, but he remained silent. I was just a big ha 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 here from Idaho. Pardon me. Your fish speakers were supposed to put me in a good mood, weren't they? Did they succeed? Idaho studied Leto's face, recognizing the distinctive Atreides features. You Atreides always did know me too well, Idaho said. That's better, Leto said. You're beginning to accept that I'm not just one Atreides, I'm all of them. Paul said that once. So I did. This is Leto Paul again. As much as the original personality could be conveyed by tone and accent, it was Muad'Dib speaking. I've got a problem with this. I'll let you sort of ponder. I'm going to have to nip to the loo in a wee second, folks. It's the amount of fluids I'm going through. But the problem I have is this: running through the previous books, etc. I'm not just one Atreides, I'm all of them, any kind of thing like that. Paul said that once. No, he didn't. As far as I can tell, no. And I don't know how it's possible that this Duncan would know that. So I've written down here, no, he didn't, not in the Dune series. And if this happened, it would have happened after Duncan's death in the first Dune book. If Paul had, the full I'm all of them, he's dead before that happened, isn't it? He's dead before he takes the water of life. Which opens up other memory to him, doesn't it? As well as the prescience, but he has some prescient dreams. So I don't know if it's maybe, well, again, possibly, I don't know, a false memory. Something possibly implanted into Duncan, which isn't correct. But we have the God Emperors agreeing with that. And I'm disagreeing with both of them. As far as I know, it didn't happen in the Dune series at all. Unless it's simply something that happened off camera, if you see what I mean. X camera. Let's see. So yeah, Paul said that once. So I did. As much as the original personality could be conveyed by tone and accent, it was Muad'Dib speaking. Idaho gulped, looked away at the room's door. This is very important, by the way. You've taken something away from us, he said. I can feel it. Those women, Moneo. And we get Leto's thoughts here. Us against you, Leto thought. The Duncans always choose the human side. Idaho returned his attention to Leto's face. This is what he says. What have you given us in exchange? Throughout the Empire, Leto's peace. So what have you given us in exchange? Good question. His answer is Leto's peace. What have they lost? And so here's the question for you folks as I nip to the loo for a quick break. The answer that the thing that Duncan wonders about here is I think very important. You've taken something away from us. What is it? So the question I want to ask is, what has humanity lost? And I've written up next to this, chaos is my answer. Amongst I'm sure there's more things, but it's a very, very important question, I think, within this chapter, within the whole, pretty much the Dune series as it is. What has humanity lost? What has it gained? The reason why I wrote chaos is that it has Leto's peace, empire. In other words, whatever it is that they lost, Leto doesn't enlighten them what it is that he's taken away from them. But whatever it is, it's been replaced with Leto's peace, which is the empire. Throughout the empire, Leto's peace. That's order. That's law and order. And I went with, if that's the law and order, that's the opposite of that. What's been lost is possibly chaos. That this universe has been moving from chaos to order, and is probably going to move from order to chaos again. But it's an interesting question. What has humanity lost? I wonder what you think, guys. If you'll excuse me, I'll be right back in a wee moment. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that, folks. I only took some cough medicine, started sneezing. Oh, in fact, I got to mute this again. Hang on a second. Sorry. Oh goodness, sorry, I wish my ears would pop. I think it's the pressure actually from the thunder and lightning the other day. Oh dear. That's also a bit of the cold as well. I think that's how I got it. Got soaked. Oh dear. Right, sorry about that, folks. Still not hearing 100%, but I hope it don't sound too bad. Let me see any other comments there. Bill Davis says, "I'm from the desert. It's just part of life here." Yeah, getting rainwater that would make sense. Yeah, yeah, excellent, Bill. I've never been to a real desert, as I pointed out. That's something I'd love to see. As a real desert, I suppose you get the sense of it from different movies and stuff and TV shows, but something like Dune as well, and just yeah, it'd be lovely to see a big, in a very safe way, a big desert. It'd be fascinating. I haven't been, was it? I haven't been over the equator either. I quite one of the things I'd quite like to see at some point is I'd love to see the southern stars. Especially where we're at. We're very very far north. We're sort of a subarctic country here, but the night sky here, would love the constellations and stuff like that. But I've always wanted to see the southern sky to see what it's like. But yeah, I'd love to get to a proper desert as well, Bill. Yes, indeed. Look at water. I must bring them in sometime and show them to you. But I actually am a big fan of cactuses. I've got a whole bunch of lovely cactuses that I look after. I've got to repot some actually soon. They're doing quite well. My wife tends to she gets me ones that are she doesn't buy them very often, but what she does is she'll buy she sees a cactus in distress. If you see what I mean, one that's not doing too well, has been knocked about a bit in the shop. She'll buy that and bring it to me, and I'll sort it out, and we'll end up with a nice cactus. But I've got a whole bunch of them. I've no idea what any of them are, by the way. Look, we've got a lovely one that we've got a couple of ones that flower very nicely. Let's see now. Julian was saying the Taraks who talk about history too, as do the Bene Gesserit. Frank seems focused on how history is distorts as the act of telling, multiple possible meanings trapped within word delivery. I'm now considering how the chaos of the famine times was even worse on the ground level than I imagined. Maybe he is denying them responsibility or the chance to grow change, says Bill. Sorry, I thought that was Julian reading on. That was Bill's comment there. Maybe he is denying them responsibility or the chance to grow change, just in relation to what have they lost. Yeah. Responsibility to take action to live your own life, to grow and change, to make your own mistakes. Possibly that's almost the thing, that it's if it's a certain path to guide mankind down. It's all, as you put it, all responsibility taken away. He's robbed them of their I think he's also robbed the people of the universe of their own, I suppose, personal destiny, if you like, their own individual destiny or group destiny, I suppose. But we're going to again. We're going. I just thought it was an interesting question. It was an interesting observation by Duncan. You've taken something away from us. He said, "I can feel it." Those women, Mineo, Leto, there's all something there that's not quite tangible, and Leto doesn't deny it. He sort of sees it as someone else against him. I feel like almost the Duncans always choose the human side, us against you, never his side. They just never see it my way. What have you? But he goes on to say, "What have you given us in exchange?" Which is a very good question, but he answers it throughout the Empire, Leto's piece. So the fact that it's an answer means there is something I've taken from you, possibly just your freedom. It's his way or the highway, isn't it? As something that appeared in Children of Dune, wasn't there a particular use of a word? And I think it was in was it the Hawaiian language, and it was used in a kind of it's my way or this word, and that word was the highway. It translated into the highway. I thought was very interesting. Now let's see. This is so throughout the Empire, Leto's piece is the response to this question: what have you given us in exchange? On goes Duncan, and I can see that everyone's delightfully happy. That's why you need a personal guard. My piece is actually enforced tranquil. Sorry, I missed a bit there. Apologies. Leto smiled. I even drew a smile. Leto smiled. My piece is actually enforced tranquility. Humans have a long history of reacting against tranquility. Tranquil, to be peaceful. My piece is actually enforced peacefulness. The application of force. Smile. This kind of thing. Humans have a long history of reacting against tranquility. It's an interesting thing, isn't it? I suppose it's a statement that's, I like the statement. It's an interesting one, but I don't know if people actually really do react against having a bit of peace and quiet. It depends on your sensibilities, your age, your sense of adventure, etc. But I'd say I'd be very happy with a bit of tranquility around here. And I wouldn't I wouldn't need enforced. I think it's the enforcement that people would have a bother with. Pardon me. And that perhaps Leto is confusing enforced tranquility with tranquility. I would say they're not the same thing. So my piece is actually enforced tranquility. Humans have a long history of reacting against tranquility. So you give us the fish speakers and a hierarchy you can identify without any mistakes. A female army, Idaho muttered. The ultimate male enticing force, Leto said. Sex always was a way of subduing the aggressive male. Maybe not. I think I've made a wee note here. Always, there's absolutes in this chapter again, I suppose, which we have to pay attention to. I think I might let a couple of them get by me here, actually. There'll be always and nevers, this kind of thing. Oh, sorry, that's a bit sloppy. I mean, all right. Well, the Duncans always think it odd that I choose women. That's an absolute that we're dealing with. So the Duncans always do this. All contemporaries do not inhabit at the same time. That was bizarre because I think, as we said, that's another absolute there. But I think we had a wee chat about it anyway. The definition of a contemporary is that someone that you inhabit at the same time as, or people who inhabit at the same time. So it doesn't quite make sense. So I've also written the ultimate male enticing force. Sex always was a way of subduing the aggressive male. This is, I suppose, important whenever we again move down the books and we get to things like the honored matres without sort of giving away too much. I've also written it's also been used by aggressive males to subdue women and men as well. It's a two-way street there, I think. Sex always has a way of subduing the aggressive male. No, it's not true. And it's an odd statement to make. Is that what they do? Says Duncan. They prevent or ameliorate excesses which could lead to more painful violence. And you let them believe you're a god. I don't think I like this. The curse of holiness is as offensive to me as it is to you. Idaho frowned. It was not the response he had expected. I get the sense, therefore, what Leto is suggesting here about the difference between the fish speakers and a male army, in part, is the excesses of violence. That I get the sense that the female army would do the job with the level of violence it required and then stop once the job was done. If you like, no, killing for killing's sake, this kind of thing. That just individual murdering, this kind of more control, if you like. You have to believe you're a god. I don't think I like this. The curse of holiness is as offensive to me as it is to you. And I've written next to that, is that true? And it's not the response that Idaho expects. He's not too happy about that. What kind of game are you playing, Lord Leto? A very old one, but with new rules. Your rules. Would you rather I turned it all back to Chom and Landsrad and the great houses? The Talaxes say that there is no more Landsrad. You don't allow any real self-rule. So there we go. No more Landsrad. We have the great houses. We have the House Minor, if you like, of the Dune universe, but they're kind of mutual government that they all make up. They're kind of powwow house, if you like, their parliament, for want of a better term. This is where Duke Leto originally was more popular. He courted power in the Landsrad, which ultimately failed, I suppose, didn't it, within the first Dune series. The idea is that if somebody all out attacked, it's a bit like the story of Helen of Troy. Helen of Sparta, whoever married Helen of Sparta. The whole point of the Trojan War, I suppose, is why do all the Greek kings pile up there to fight this war? Is that I suppose they're basically competed for her. In that sense, whoever did marry her, all the other kings, to stop other people from kidnapping her, because I think at this point she'd already been kidnapped once at least by Theseus. So she gets married to Menelaus, who's the king of Sparta. All the other kings promise to basically fight anyone who messes with that, if you like, and that's the kind. So whenever she's kidnapped or escapes, if you like, with Paris off to Troy, that's why all of the kings come together, because they all swore an oath to protect whoever that marriage in particular, whoever married Helen of Sparta. So, sorry, I don't know why I jumped onto that there, but the Landsrad is bye-bye. No more self-rule. Well, then I could step aside for the Bene Gesserit, or maybe the Ixians, or the Tleilaxu. Would you like me to find another Baron Harkonnen to assume power over the Empire? Say the word, Duncan, and I'll abdicate. I've written next to this, so it's better the devil you know, in other words. And I'll say the word and I'll abdicate. I've written here, would he? I doubt it. He's being insincere, and he's possibly being sarcastic here. Under this avalanche of meaning, Idaho again shook his head from side to side. He's messing with him here. In the wrong hands, Leto said, monolithic centralized power is a dangerous and volatile instrument. I think I have a wee just a bit missing in the text here, by the way, this next little point here. And your hands are the right ones, is what Duncan says here. My copy doesn't have the punctuation marks on it at the front. I'd actually nearly went by there thinking it wasn't speech, but and your hands are the right ones. I've got no punctuation marks there, just to let anybody. That's the copy I'm working with. So just always looking for these wee mistakes, or nearly tripping over them, I suppose. So it's just in case anybody didn't realize that was speech going on there. I'll just read that again. In the wrong hands, Leto said, monolithic centralized power is a dangerous and volatile instrument. And your hands are the right ones. I'm not certain about my hands, but I will tell you, Duncan, I'm certain about the hands of those who've gone before me. I know them. Idaho turned his back on Leto, and we get Leto's thoughts here. So he's literally just turned around. What a fascinating, ultimately human gesture, Leto thought. Rejection coupled to acceptance of his vulnerability. Leto spoke to Idaho's back. You object quite rightly that I use people without their full knowledge and consent. Idaho turned his profile to Leto, then turned his head to look up at the cowled face, cocking his head forward a bit to peer into the all-blue eyes. We get Leto's thoughts again here. He is studying me, Leto thought, but he has only the face to measure me by. The Atreides had taught their people to know the subtle signals of face and body, and Idaho was good at it. but the realization could be seen coming over him. He was over his depth here. That phrase doesn't make sense. It's a mixed. I don't know if everybody's got the same thing in your books, but it's a mixed metaphor, isn't it? It's the wrong phrase. If you're over your depth, sorry, it's you're out of your depth, or you're over your head, in over your head and something. But it seems to be an accidental mix-up of those. But he was over his depth here is not the right thing. I was kind of wondering, is it maybe an Americanism of that phrase? I think it should be he was out of his depth there. Here, sorry. There in the passage, he was out of his depth here. He was over his depth is a bizarre thing to me, and I might be wrong. It might be an Americanism or a Canadianism or something like that. But here it's you're out of your depth. Over your depth, I suppose over I don't know. It's a bizarre statement. I don't know. How am I thinking? What am I thinking about? In terms of a phrase of common parlance, if you like something of phrase and fable, if you want, you're out of your depth. I've never heard over his depth. It could be my cultural ignorance, by the way, and if it is, apologies. I was just wondering. It sounded really strange to me. I would say you're out of your depth. I would never say ever I've never in my life I've said you're over your depth here. It doesn't. It just wouldn't happen. I would say you're in over your head. It's too much. But I don't know. As I said, maybe it's me, but it seems like a mixed metaphor there. Excuse my pernickettiness, but I just made a wee note of it. Yeah. If anybody ever wants a good laugh, by the way, an interesting book to read is if there's all sorts of wee books you can get for studying English language and so on. What's it called? But it's Dictionary of Phrase and Fable. Is a great wee book to have. It's not that big. It's not that dear either. I don't know where it is. It's about there somewhere. It tells you it's a great wee book about just the origin of phrases. That kind of thing. My favorite one is the big supermarkets here in Britain, Tesco. Has a truncated version of a phrase from it from a long time ago. It's called "Every Little Helps," is what they use, and the full phrase is "Every little helps," as the old woman said when she pissed in the sea. And you never see them use that in their adverts, but that's "Every little helps." If you want it, if you don't believe me, get the book and look it up. Dictionary of Phrase and Fable. I'm not sure who makes it, so it's probably Oxford. Oxford or Cambridge, I can't remember. Probably one of them. Oxford Book of Phrase and Fable, that kind of thing. Well worth the read, actually. Just a flick through. It's a great book. Tell you all the origins of all sorts of things. Let me just catch up with your comments if there's any there, folks. Also, I'm from the desert, just part of life here. Oh yeah, here we go. Julian said the Tylaxu talk about history too, as do the Bene Gesserit. Frank seems focused on how history is distorts in the act of telling multiple possible meanings trapped within word delivery. Yeah, sorry, I read that before. Sorry, Julian. I'm now considering how the chaos of the famine times was even worse on the ground level than I imagined. Bill saying maybe he's denying the responsibility, the chance to grow, change. Bill says, I think there is a quote from the stolen journals from Leto II where he discusses humanity trying to escape into chaos. Yeah. Yeah, it's like mixed. Oh, it's not just me. Thank you, Bill. I thought it, yeah. Mixed, it is indeed. It's a mixed metaphor, mixed idiom. He's in over his depth here. Yeah, it's a mixed metaphor. Yeah, it's out of your depth or in over your head, and I think it's just both of them have got. There's been some sort of mix-up here. We do have a problem, Bill. With I don't know if you're aware of this, but just for anybody who's not too aware of this, there are different versions of the texts. I've got 4 different ones here, plus an electronic one, but I tend to work with one that sits in the 4 different things. There are problems with the texts around the world, basically. We've been finding them. It's kind of so as much as we're reading through it, we're also annotating this as we go. But there are mistakes in books and changes, editorial changes in some I'm noticing, by the way, I don't know if anybody's reading here, but for example, Harbour, because I've got a UK edition here, Harbour, words like that are all OUR instead of the American OR. OR. So it's interesting, just textual changes. But prior to this, folks, that we've done the first three, the Great Dune trilogy books as notes. That's them all there behind me. All these notebooks here. You probably can't see them. Like that. There they all are. So we've filled about 10 of them, haven't we? 4, 2, 6, 10. Yeah, 11. We filled 11. We're nearly finished this one, so we'll soon have, this will be our 12th one. So we're discovering all sorts of wee problems in the text. And one of the big mysteries is what on earth's happened to the first three Dune novels. They've been absolutely massacred in some ways. So we're just keeping our eye out a wee bit. You know what I mean? But I think there's a quote from the Stones where Leto discusses humanity trying to escape into chaos. Yeah. Chaos. There's a. We'll have to have. In fact, we'll have to have a sort of matter about it. I must get. We'll possibly do it as an interlude or a separate episode or something other for the book club. But there's a whole thing on chaos and order, particularly to do with the Isaac Asimov's Foundation series. We're talking about the first three original books, nothing else. And the idea of galactic empire, predictability, the goodness, what would you call it? Psychohistory within the books. This kind of mass predictive, it's a prediction tool, isn't it? For events on a huge scale. Dune is considered a response by many to that. That one is kind of chaos to order, the other one order to chaos, and then back, etc., etc. That there is a whole sort of relationship there and a reasoning for it as well. But yeah, chaos to order, order to chaos, and it's a part of. I'm pretty sure is it a part of which one would it be? I don't want to give the wrong guy away. I think it's possibly part of Donald E. Palumbo's work. Is that sort of chaos to order discussion? Let me see if I can just find it very quickly. That's that one. That's William Two fonts. Where would you be? Where would you be? Where did you go? Oh, I can't see it handy. I'll see if I can take it. Yeah, I must have a wee nose. Yeah. So I've been shifting some books about there. There. Oh, it is. Hang on. We talk about it often enough. Sorry. This is the one. There we go, folks. Chaos Theory, Asimov's Foundation and Robots, and Herbert's Dune. So the practical aesthetic of epic science fiction. And this is the book that kind of looks at that. So it's psychohistory and chaos theory, etc. Monomyth, fractal patterns in the Dune series, plots within plots, patterns within patterns. Feedback loops, all of this kind of stuff. So it's stuff that we've discussed before. But chaos theory structures and concepts in the Dune series. Order to chaos for Dune, chaos to order for the Asimov. I suppose order to chaos, chaos to order. Dune, I suppose, takes a big flip through it. But yeah, it's definitely chaos is a big part of this, I suppose. In some ways, I think it's very much chaos, like chaos theory, and the others, it's chaos almost in a almost in a kind of Murakakian sense in some ways, I think. Yeah. Let's see. Right, where to get to, folks? Spoke to the blue eyes. Let's see. Oh yes, over his depth here. I'll be curious to know if anybody's got anything different. For example, in the Berkeley edition, Idaho cleared his throat. What's the worst thing you would ask of me? And we get Leto's thoughts here. How like a Duncan, Leto thought. This one was a classic. Idaho would give his loyalty to an Atreides, to the guardian of his oath, but he sent a signal that he would not go beyond the personal limits of his own morality. You will be asked to guard me by whatever means necessary, and you will. Oh, hang on. You will be asked to guard my secret. Let me just check that. It's my mistake, but you'll be asked to. Yeah, it's my mistake here. You will be asked to guard me by whatever means necessary, and you will be asked by whatever means necessary, and you will be asked to guard my secret. No, I got it right. I just missed a word when I was reading it. Sorry about that, folks. So this is important here. So what's the worst thing, by the way, just dialing back a wee bit, what's the worst thing you would ask of me? Is not, no answer, is he doesn't tell me, dodges the question. You will be asked to guard me by whatever means necessary, and you will be, that's the bit I missed, you will be asked to guard my secret. I was looking at the wrong bit there, that's why I didn't, let me see. And you will be. Yeah, there we go. No problem, fixed, thank you. Right, you will be asked to guard me by whatever means necessary. I've written it twice. That's my problem. Right, hang on a second, folks. Yeah, I must have wrote it out again without scoring it out the first time. I only missed one word. That was silly. Right, excuse me. Sorry about that. I just a bit of double entry there. You'll be asked to guard me by whatever means necessary, and you'll be asked to guard my secret. What secret? That I'm vulnerable. That you're not God. Not in that ultimate sense. So I've written next to that, by the way, know them. And that this is hugely important. So what secret? That I'm vulnerable, that you're not God, not in that ultimate sense. Your fish speakers talk about rebels. They exist. Why? They are young, and I have not convinced them that my way is better. It's very difficult convincing the young of anything. They're born knowing so much. I've written here that this, I don't know, that almost that this seems to have a bit of loaded meaning here. It's a bit Erewhonian as well. First of all, makes me think of I suppose the aliens that before they're born into the Erewhonians children's bodies, if you like, trying to become their children. They're born knowing so much. I've written next to that Alia, Leto himself, and Ganima are all born knowing very, so much, weren't they? I was wondering, is the tone here sarcastic? Is there a sense of dramatic irony here? It feels like it should be a loaded sentence for Leto, almost a painful one, possibly. But again, why has he not bothered to convince the young? And surely the young are turning up all the time. They're always new children. I've never before heard an Atreides sneer at the young that way. Well, there you go. Actually, I do my notes as I go in this, folks, so it's a sneering tone. I must write that in there. He sneers at them. Sneering at the young. Is he envious? Is he hateful? Annoyed? Jealous? Perhaps it's because I'm so much older. Old compounded by old, and my task gets more difficult with each passing generation. What is your task? You will come to understand it as we go along. I've written next to that. Not an answer. I've just also made a wee note here that Frank is building tension by doing this. What we learn, what we don't learn. What Idaho learns, what he doesn't learn. He's not going to play all his cards in this chapter. He's feeding a certain amount of information, keeping stuff back, and this constant question and answering, where the Leto never gives a proper answer almost to anything. I think it's hilarious. It's very well done. But building tension, and you can imagine almost how the Duncan feels, because he is aware there's parts of this chapter where he knows he's not getting a straight answer. He's not that stupid. What does the God Emperor reveal? What does he not reveal? What are the, and we get a whole sense of, again, back to the epigraph about what the Duncans always think. And do they always think that because he's got a formula to work to greet them? And it seems that he doesn't vary from it. So is it perhaps this interview that creates the conditions for the way the Duncans think in the first place? It's an interesting thing to think about, isn't it? Um, so it's an 8. Oh, sorry, I'll move that smoke out of the way. I put it in front of the camera. Apologies. Because it's perhaps I'm so much older, old compounded by old, and my task gets more difficult with each passing generation. What is your task? You will come to understand it as we go along. What happens if I fail you? Do your women eliminate me? And I've written next to this, no, he does. I try not to burden the fish speakers with guilt. So that's, no, I kill you without him saying that. If you accept it. Oh, sorry, I missed the line there. Apologies. I try not to burden the fish speakers with guilt, but you would burden me if you accept it. If I find that you're worse than Harkonnens, I'll turn against you. I've written next to this, he's far worse. Um, well, this is what happens. Interestingly enough, as we go on, he ultimately will turn against the God Emperor. He will believe he's. Sorry, I should have said spoiler alert or something. Apologies. How do we put it? The interesting thing here, I'm pretty certain, is at this point, Duncan doesn't know that. I suppose that, for example, Paul is a Harkonnen. That the Atreides are as much Harkonnens as they are anything else, I suppose. And I'm surprised that the Tleilaxu haven't passed that knowledge on. I'm wondering how common that knowledge is actually in the 3,500th year of Leto's reign. So if I find out that you're worse than the Harkonnens, I'll turn against. Worse than Harkonnens, I'll turn against you. And Leto's thoughts are, how like a Duncan, they measure all evil against the Harkonnens. How little they know of evil. I think that should have a spate of booming guffaws there. A good old giggle from the maniacal laughter, maybe from the inner memory. Leto said, the Baron ate whole planets, Duncan. What could be worse than that? Eating the Empire. I am pregnant with my Empire. I'll die giving birth to it. I thought this. I've written next to this is a true metaphor, which is quite interesting. As much as it is a metaphor, it's also I suppose part of the story. Which is I just thought an interesting statement. Oh. So I'm pregnant with my empire. I'll die giving birth to it. In other words, I'm not going to eat it. I'm giving birth to it. And that suggests that that's not this empire, if you see what I mean. Or that it's not fully born. Makes you kind of think about, the Second Coming, that kind of thing. Poem by William Butler Yeats. What rough beast, isn't it? Its time come at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born. It's not born yet. Pregnant with my empire, I'll die giving birth to it. The answer, by the way, to the poem is it's Ireland, is the rough beast. If I could believe that, will you command my guard? Why me? You're the best. Flattery. Dangerous work, I'd imagine. Is that how my predecessors died, doing your dangerous work? Some of them. I wish I had the memories of those others. Exclamation mark. That I should be bringing that one line, but the throat's not quite up for it tonight, folks. You couldn't have and still be the original. I want to learn about them, though. You will. So the Atreides still need a sharp knife. Oh, we have jobs that only a Duncan Idaho can do. Now, just to run through that again, you're the best, Duncan. Flattery. Dangerous work, I'd imagine. Is that how my predecessors died, doing your dangerous work? Again, still some of them. I still want to know here. Still, it's a little bit of an answer, but not much. This statement here, I wish I had the memories of those others. You couldn't have and still be the original. So there's something important there in that statement from Leto. You couldn't have and still be the original. Means I think it's suggestive that it was possible somehow. It's not like that. Well, that could never happen, at all. It's just not possible, Duncan. It's something else. You couldn't have and still be the original. It's a one or two, isn't it? It's an either or statement, isn't it? Something like that. It suggests it was possible. All right, I'll rephrase that. It suggests it is possible. That's better. Should write that in. And this is the point where I just realized that there are no Duncan Idahos in Leto's other memory, as far as I can tell. And so I'm all the statements that about ancestors, about everybody. I'm all of them, Duncan. I'm everybody. There's no Duncan in there, and each time a Duncan dies, they don't appear in Leto's other memory somehow. And it's interesting in terms of what is the God Emperor doing with Duncan Idaho's, the Duncan Idaho's in terms of his breeding program, or as I think we pointed out, breeding programs. And we've also been told that of all the, I suppose, the different people that we'd had gathered recently, only a couple of them had been descendants of Duncan Idaho who had been used as a stud, if you like, in the Atreides breeding program. But we have jobs that only a Duncan Idaho can do, and I've written underneath this stud. And it's maybe at certain times it's time to bring out the Duncan, to breed him as opposed to regular. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. But but whatever it is it I want this little thing. What's going on here? I wish I had the memories of those others. You couldn't have and still be the original. Means if you had them, you would be unoriginal. You would be different than the original thing. But this does suggest it's possible. Just some a Kwisatz Haderach type Ghola. I want to learn about them though. You will. So the Atreides still need a sharp knife. We have jobs that only a Duncan can do. And again, it's also not a direct answer, I suppose. You say, we, Idaho swallowed, looked at the door, then at Leto's face. Leto spoke to him as Muad'Dib would have, but still in the Leto voice. When we climbed to Ch13 for the last time together, you had my loyalty then, and I had yours. Nothing of that has really changed. That was your father. That was me. Paul Muad'Dib's voice of command coming from Leto's bulk always shocked the Gholas. Loud, exclaimed. And the response here is a whisper in contrast, which I like as well. It's good writing I like the way he deals with this chapter. Idaho whispered, all of you in that one body. He broke off. Leto remained silent. This was the decision moment. Presently, Idaho permitted himself that devil-may-care grin for which he had been so well known. Then I will speak to the first Leto and to Paul. The ones who know me best use me well, for I did love you. Leto closed his eyes. Such words always distressed him. He knew it was love to which he was most vulnerable. And I've written next to this, like Jessica. Question mark. Don't know if I'm being a bit cheeky with some of my notes here. The other thing is actually, that's on the next page of my notes, but dialing back a bit just to that, I will speak to the first Leto, that's Paul's father, and to Paul, the ones who knew me best, use me well, for I did love you. Not Jessica. Interestingly enough, if we actually, again, he doesn't maybe know this, but how would we put it? We kind of get it from the hate, if you like, character of Idaho, that he actually marries Alia because of her resemblance to her mother, Jessica. And Jessica knows this, and we discover this in Children of Dune. Idaho's always, I think, been in love with Jessica. And it's interesting he doesn't add her name in there. First Leto and Paul. We're throwing in some Atreides. He could have thrown in Jessica as well, the Lady Jessica, but he doesn't. I thought it was an interesting absence there. Leto closed his eyes. Such words had always distressed him. He knew it was love to which he was most vulnerable. Love, all the way back, of course, is what causes Lady Jessica to have a boy instead of the girl that she's ordered to. And here we get this, and this is the other part of this, I suppose, this odd couple kind of chapter in a funny way. Is like the chapter we were talking about way back at the start of June with the Baron and Piter. There is a third person in the room, and I think I'm pretty sure it's Fade Raufa. You don't see that in Danny Villeneuve's Dune at all. There's a third person here too. Hence it reminds me a lot of, and it's the other aspect of this odd couple, this kind of Janus face, if you want. But it's Mineo turns up here to save Leto, and I think that this is really interesting. So Leto has decided this is the point where this is the decision moment. I go quiet at this point, and whatever the Duncan says in this case, he's spoken of love, and it gets him right there. This, it's I don't know. I'm starting to contemplate who is writing this as well. Much as the story of the stolen journals, the epigraphs are from Leto himself. I think it's quite fun. Leto's reactions are very funny to me, anyway, in this. So it's this. I don't know. It depends on how sincere we believe that our third person omniscient narrator is being at this point. And the question we could ask is, certainly up to this point, is it Leto? Such words always distressed him. He knew it was love to which he was most vulnerable. Mineo is possibly true. Mineo, who had been listening, came to the rescue. That's just the way it's presented. He entered and said, "Lord, shall I take Duncan Idaho to the guards he will command?" Yes. The one word was all that Leto could manage. Mineo took Idaho's arm and led him away. Let me get Leto's thoughts here. Good Mineo, Leto thought. So good. He knows me so well, but I despair of his ever understanding me. And that's at the point where I suppose Mineo came in. I suppose that through the gated part of this room, Homo ex machina is the bit where the man out of the machine to save the day. I thought was a very interesting twist on a literary device, the Deus ex machina here. It's and we have a god in the room, in a sense, in a machine, and we put a man in with him, and to save it's not interestingly enough, it's not the human, not the hero that's gone into the room. We're saying this is kind of like a traditional meet the monster, and some guy's thrown into it and he has to fight. Oh, it's dark, and suddenly the reveal, and off we go. It's that kind of traditional encounter, completely flipped into an almost intellectual interview between these two, an emotional and ethical interview, where, let's face it, Leto gives very little away to this Duncan. And as I said, within this chapter, I think it's really well written. I really enjoyed this chapter enormously. I've read this tonight. I've read this 3 times. I've found it. I suppose it depends on how you read it, and a lot of that's got to do with your own internal voice, I suppose. Whenever you're reading these things, trying to go with the descriptions, but I found it very funny, to be honest with you. And again, maybe that's just me. But it was the level of how do we put it? The level of deceit, dodging the question, sophistry, take your pick, evasion by the god Ember. For this to be an interview, it's very one-sided. There's not much information really traveling from Duncan to Leto. It's what's Leto, the questions that Duncan asks are revealing. And what the God Emperor reveals is actually very little, because he's bored with this. He knows he knows what he's saying. And so now, as I said at the end of this chapter, I think if you actually, it's interesting the way the epigraphs work, that we do pay attention to them. But if you jump back and have a look at this now, what the Duncans always think it odd that I choose women for combat forces, but my fish speakers are a temporary army in every sense. That's the thing that's been bothering the Duncan in this, is the choice of women. It's a conversation that runs through it, and it's about all. They always think this. It's an absolute, isn't it? It's the same thing every time. So we've got a level of boredom and repetition for the God Emperor. Everything's like almost being a fully awakened newborn in some ways. It must be that the Duncan Idaho Ghoula's experience is very similar to, for example, at one of the Atreides children being awakened with all the other memory. It's a knowledge of your own life and death. It's a singular thing, isn't it? But it's different. And particularly within this chapter, I think we learn about possibilities, genetically speaking, for the Duncans. And we learn about a chunk more of them dying, and a chunk more of them, I suppose, killing the young master that they swore to protect, killing the Paul Atreides face dancer. It doesn't necessarily say it's because they believed that it was Paul. It's possible that they were certain that it was a face dancer and they killed it for that reason. It causes him the best lack conviction while the worst are filled with a righteous intensity. Yeah, it's a damn good poem, isn't it? It's very, you could argue it's quite relevant today. Thanks, Paul. It's a great start, isn't it? Excuse me. William Butler Yeats. Oh, I need fluids. Yeah. There we go. It's what am I thinking on? Oh, is it? Yeah, I'm a couple of lines down. Sorry, my old brain. I was actually going to say the start of it reminds me of Jabberwocky, but it's for some reason. Here you go, folks. The Second Coming by William Butler Yeats. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. The centre cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming! Hardly are those words out when a vast image of Spiritus Mundi troubles my sight. Somewhere in sands of the desert, a shape with lion body and the head of a man, a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun, is moving its slow thighs, while all about it reel shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle, and what rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born. There you go. For anybody who's not familiar, I haven't read that in years. What a great poem. Sorry, I do like the poems, folks. Hope you don't mind. Well, there we go. That's us through to the end of this chapter. I think it's a great chapter. I've ended up with loads of questions. A couple about just things that happened to the Duncan. Parts of the conversation. Paul Atreides, saying that I'm not just one Atreides, I'm all of them. It's that. I said, don't have any recollection of that. The book, done a wee search, couldn't find anything. Leto going, so I did. So it must have been something outside of the narrative if we go with that. And just a wee comment about dying by Harkonnen blades. pardon me, I suppose it's sufficiently vague enough, if you like, that it's possible that Duncan didn't know that the Sardaukar that killed him were dressed as Harkonnen. But I think if fighting them, he would have known. I thought. We must check. Must have a wee nosy to see if there are. Yeah, I'll have to have a wee look through the books to see other instances of Duncan Idaho remembering his death, and just check to see what he does remember. But I thought there was a couple of maybe continuity errors there or something. And the hugely important part, I suppose, was that Leto's secret, that he's vulnerable, that you're not a god, not in that ultimate sense. I've written no. Your fish speakers talk about rebels, so rebels, but the secret is that he's not. He's a god in name. He's the man who would be king. Iscarp and many others who've taken this kind of role on before. But he's not a god. Not that he says that. He says not in that ultimate sense, but the ultimate sense of the word is the word, I suppose. I think Julius pointed out something earlier just about the meaning. Where are we? Multiple possible meanings trapped within word delivery in this chapter. There's trickiness, and I think real. I think this is one of the chapters, even despite the couple of little things, I think that shows Frank's talent as a writer and the tension that he's able to build and maintain with the character, and a character who's meant to be in shock, really. Who's what the hell is this? He's Brave New World that has such worms in it. God, we're going all over the place literary wise this tonight, But there we go, folks. Yes, indeed. It's the God Emperor is becoming. I think we talk about mystique, and he's very intriguing at this point. And he's a very curious character to keep your eye on. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? What is he? What's he up to? What's this ancient game that he's playing? It's maybe the golden path, but it's politics, as far as I know. It's politicking. It's government. Monolithic, all powerful. Warnings about the idea, again, as we're going to get into this a fair bit in this book, sort of male armies, female armies, male violence, this kind of thing. We've moved up into grips of what the whole point of having the fish speakers, the nature of them, and again, that's going to evolve throughout the this kind of idea is being bred. It's going to evolve throughout the Dune series. So I think there's tons in this. Actually, to be honest with you, it's almost a chapter that's well worth. I said I've read it 3 times for tonight. I've got lots of wee notes in the book, lots of wee questions, just checking little things like not an answer. There's all sorts there, and it really is almost a bit of it's a set piece, isn't it? There's almost a sense of theatre about it. Again, with the God Emperor performing his role in this play that he's performed in so many times, and it's like he gets a different lead actor in the play every time, but it's always a different person, even though it's the same. There's a level of paradox that we're hitting within this chapter as well. Plus, I get to say "Fiat lux ecce verbis" as well. It's a great chapter, it really is. I can't praise it enough. I really enjoyed it so much, especially on the back of this other back and forth, this other interview that we've just kind of almost mirrors this one. Leto with Nayla, and then we get to go to Leto with Idaho, our brand new Idaho. So a tip-top chapter. Absolutely adored it, to be honest with you. Really enjoyed reading it. Came out of it with loads of questions. Again, just it's different. I've read this book a wee while back, but didn't take notes. I just wanted to tear through it just to refresh my memory. It's starting to really intrigue me again. I've got my love for it back. There's a lot in it, and it's and Frank's. You can see the time and care that he puts in his writing. But I just thought, yeah, a great introduction for our new Duncan Idaho. And it's when these two characters meet, it's a moment. There's all sorts going on here. There's stuff that's foreshadowing. There's some dramatic irony. And again, as usual, as readers, we have a sense of already we're a little bit prescient of certain things thanks to the God Emperor's thoughts. But we should be careful. We should pay attention to him. He's even telling us again about how he's able to, for the fish speakers, how to shape. The term would have been this, mystique from the first Dune universe, but he's created this sorority of sisters, if you like, fellowship of females that share in this companionship, do certain things together that creates a sort of, what he calls a haze of nostalgia. That creates something different than what they were. It reminds me of this again. It creates a set of memories. And I think it's like a mutual set of memories, almost like a cult kind of thing. And it really does remind me of the kind of the Camelot thing, which Frank is well invested in terms of his own ideas. This idea of the Camelot pattern. I'd almost read it out tonight, but in fact, I think we should have a read out. It might be pertinent in some ways. Is the Lady of Shalott, which is it's in my top 10. Put it that way. It's one of my all-time favorite poems by Alfred Lord Tennyson, and it's sort of if you think perhaps that we're approaching an apex with Leto's piece of the universe being a certain way before it goes a different way, that moment I suppose is kind of the epitomized in that poem where Arthur has finally built Camelot, this brilliant, castle city, of gold, and it's an apex moment, isn't it? And I love the poem. If anybody's not read it, check it out. The Lady of Shalott, fantastic. You'll recognize so many terms from it. Oh goodness, she just floats by dead on a boat. Shit. This is just everything goes to. It's just rubbish. Everything goes downhill from there. I always think it's if you check out some lovely artwork on the Lady of Shalott, very famous paintings and so on. But one of my all-time favorite poems. I find it hilarious. At the end, I think it's very funny. I don't think you're supposed to, but I think it's very, very funny. Let's just catch up with any quotes there, folks. Let's see. Any comments? We got anything? There's that collision. I'll be interested to see Duncan's reaction to learning that the Atreides were indeed Harkonnen. I don't think he's going to. Maybe he does, actually. I can't remember. But the other little thing is that, it's all in the reports, Duncan. It's all in the reports. This kind of thing, you can read about it yourself. We're told it's a tamed history, isn't it? Leto waited patiently, wondering how long it would be until the tamed history failed. He's satisfied. Then he doesn't buy it anymore. He thinks it's rubbish. And it's been manipulated again, hasn't it? But it's almost like maybe he's not put that much effort into it, Yeah, interesting. There we go, folks. So I'm glad I managed to perk up there. I was sorry at the start of the episode, folks. I had dosed myself with cough medicine, all sorts, but I couldn't. My hearing had gone. I couldn't hear properly. It just maybe put me off a wee bit. But everything's okay. Managed to blow some air out of my nose and stuff, out of my eyes. Sorry. But yeah, what a great chapter. So there we are, folks. My throat, anyway, we're just coming up to midnight, GMT +1. We're in the witching hour. But I will say goodnight in a wee second, folks. Just to let you know, I'm still reading away at Fall of Endymion. I'm nearly finished it. But I've recorded the Petraco Myomaki. I've got it done, and I'm just editing the sound on it at the minute, which is taking a wee bit of effort, but we're getting there. So hope to have that popped up hopefully sometime next week. As another audio book, the Petraco Myomaki is a story attributed to Homer, so considered Homerica, but it's also attributed to our good friend Lucian, actually, as well. Something I've always wanted to record. So I've discovered there's a few versions of it, but I've got a good poetic version by Chapman recorded. And look to present that to you very shortly. If anybody's not familiar with it, it's the war between the frogs and mice. It's a kind of kids version of the Iliad from the ancient world. And then we're hoping to get a little bit of Lucian recorded quite soon. Let me just check our next chapter. How many pages have we got? That was chapter 13. Next chapter in my edition for next week, page 93. That's the one I'm working with. I know the evil of my ancestors because I am those people. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How much work? Okay, that's not too bad. About 8 pages or so, which I shall make a wee note of. So that shouldn't be too much bother. And we'll get some more of these ideas and so on next week. So excellent stuff. Look at my notebook, by the way, folks. It's for the first time. It's gone kerspooey. So we're nearly at the end of it. Yes, indeed. So there we are, folks. I'll just wrap up for tonight. Say thank you very much, as always, to everybody for your contributions, your help, your conversation, and the crack. As always, has been mighty. Thank you. Apologies for my cold state, having a bit of a cold here. I'm glad. I was convinced I'd be sneezing all over the place tonight. I managed to get through this pretty much without any sneezing. So I'll say good night, folks. Look after yourselves wherever you're at. Take it easy. Be safe. And we'll see you next week at 10 p.m. GMT +1 for chapter 14 of our God Emperor of Dune book club. In the meantime, folks, look after yourselves. Be safe. We'll see you real soon. All the best. Bye-bye. Oh, it's always up there now, isn't it? Bye. See you later, folks. Good night.